Welcome to App Stories, a weekly exploration of the world of apps. Today's show is brought to you by FreshBooks in Simple Contacts. I'm John Voorhees, and back with me this week is none other than Federico Viticci. How's it going, pal?
I'm doing great. It's great to be back and to hear your voice on a podcast with me again. How are you, John?
I'm doing very well. It's good to have you back. We spent a few weeks doing things that, were a little different for the show. We had Stephen Hackett.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about Mac menu bar apps, which I know is a topic that
Super exciting stuff.
It's super exciting, and you have deep knowledge
Deep knowledge now of. I listen very carefully to all of your guys' picks about the menu bar, and I actually thought it was a really enjoyable episode, even though
Good.
Mac menu bar apps, very very niche audience, but still.
It's a very Steven audience, though, so it was perfect for someone like him. And then, of course, we had Alex Cox and Merlin Mann, which was a lot of fun talking to both of them as well.
Yeah, every time somebody can give you a hard time about your home screen, I'm in favor. So great choice for the home screen episode. And I still need to listen to the one with Merlin. This is part of my sort of iOS 12 media blackout, in the sense that when I'm still working on my review, I try not to listen or read anything that is about iOS 12, because I don't want other people's opinions to sort of mix with mine. I want my review to sort of be pristine, teachy hot takes.
That makes a lot of sense. I really don't believe that you're doing an iOS 12 review. I think really what you've been up to this summer is it's like a review of Italian beaches, because you've been on more than one beach this summer. You've seen quite a bit of the coast of Italy.
I've been on a coastal tour of Italy. Yeah,
that's good.
For the first time in years, I've been more relaxed, because I am indeed working on an iOS review, and it's almost done. But the approach is different. The mindset is different. This was part of my plan when I shared my personal story on the site earlier this year, sort of not being stressed by work anymore, trying to have a more calm and positive approach. And I try to apply that to working on the review. And the fact that iOS 12 isn't as packed as iOS 11, at least for me, for the iPad stuff, I think that also helped. But yeah, I've been on an island, John. I was on a ferry boat. I'm actually kind of scared of boats, but I was on one twice with my girlfriend and my two dogs. The dogs actually didn't care about the boat, but I did. I tried.
Oh, that's good.
Tried to pay attention. I didn't want to fall into the sea.
It was a very big boat. I mean, you had your car on the boat and everything. This was not like some small little motorboat or anything.
I drove my car into the boat, and I parked my car into the boat with other cars. It was a big boat, John. So yeah, that was an experience, but now I'm back, and it's I kind of miss doing podcasts, especially giving you a hard time about all the things that you install on your iPhone. Speaking of which, we're talking about our favorite iOS extensions today, and I'm sure that you have way too many on your iPhone and iPad.
Of course I do.
I mean, just looking at this outline here of this document we have, your list is double the length of mine. So
wow.
Look, it's not like I do it on purpose, like I'm coming onto the show and I'm going to give John a hard time. You do this to yourself, is what I'm saying.
I do. I bring it on myself. I even brought Alex on the show. That was me inviting her on and hoping that she would give me a hard time and fix me. But it hasn't worked, because I did predict on that episode that I would be at least 350 apps by the end of the month. And I'm already over 350 apps by the end of the month. I think I'm at like 352. I had a few betas came in the last couple
yeah,
days.
A few betas. That's that's your excuse now. A few betas, right?
It's all betas, 352 betas.
I bet when you're feeling a little sad, you just open Test Flight and you make sure that you have all the betas installed, and you try to make sure that you hit that install button on all the betas.
Yes. Every now and then you got to go through and update all those things. And yeah. All right. So let's dive into extensions. All right. So I do use a lot of extensions, and I'm gonna double some of these up because some of them serve similar purposes. And the first two I want to mention are probably two of the ones that I use the very most, which are Messages, which is just built in for the Apple Messages app, and Slack, because I use it all the time to grab tweets or grab links to articles I see and share them with you and others on, the Mac Stories Slack and friends on Messages. I mean, it's, they're not super exciting, I guess, but it's a pretty convenient way to get information into both of those apps. I assume that despite the fact that these are not on your list, that you use these as well.
Well, I do use Slack. I don't really use the Messages one for one reason. I really don't like how Apple doesn't let you quickly send a message to an existing thread, to an existing conversation, either with an individual person or with a group. This is something that WhatsApp, for example, does better, because when you share with the WhatsApp extension, you can pick one of your recent contacts or one of your recent group threads, and you can share there. Whereas with the Messages extension, you need to manually search for a contact or a group of contacts from a thread. There used to be a couple of years ago an app from Contrast, the makers of Launch Center Pro. I think it was called,
Right.
I want to say Group Plus Plus, maybe.
Yeah, I remember
Something.
that. Yeah.
The idea was perfect in that it allowed you to sort of pin your favorite contacts to this extension that allowed you to share something, anything from any iOS app to an existing iMessage thread. And that Apple should do. And that's why I don't really like the Messages extension, because every time I need to manually type in the email address or or phone number of somebody and then accept the suggestion like an animal. I don't want to do that. So when I want to share something on Messages, I just copy that item, whether it's a link or a photo, and then I open the Messages app and I paste.
You make it sound so awful, but
It's awful.
literally,
It's really awful.
if I'm sending you a link, by the time I'm at FE, I've already got your name pulled down from the contacts, and I just tap Federico and it goes to you.
That's because you have masochistic tendencies, John. It's why you like to have people on the show giving you a hard time. It's why you like to subject yourself to these extensions like the Messages one.
Okay. All right. I'll pretend that I didn't hear that and let you pick up and tell us about your first awesome extension.
Well, my awesome extension, I like your awful one. It's Shortcuts. Of course, it's the Shortcuts extension or the Workflow extension. This is an obvious pick from me. I use it dozens of times every day because it allows me to automate anything that I can share on iOS. But primarily, I use it for screenshots and images. So either if I want to combine multiple screenshots into one image, this is the type of format for iPhone screenshots, for example, that I like to have on Mac Stories, where you usually see 2 or 3 iPhone screenshots side by side. That was created with Shortcuts or Workflow before it. I use it to upload images to our CDN. I have a shortcut that uses the web API for the service that we use for image optimization, and then it uploads everything to our CDN and gives me back a link to the image. I lately have also been using it to save reminders that contain links to interesting articles or other types of links, such as URL schemes for drafts. This is a whole topic that I also kind of teased on Connected. I really like the integration of reminders with Shortcuts, in that you can add stuff to the task manager, or you can retrieve data from the task manager without switching between apps, because Reminders is a native iOS framework. So you can write data and you can read data from the database without having to move between Shortcuts and another app and then back again.
Have you thought of linking that then to another task manager? Because Reminders works with a lot of things like Things and OmniFocus and a lot of the other task managers. I think Todoist even has some integrations with Reminders, right?
No, I've actually been using Reminders and Good Task as a UI for the reminders, but just Reminders. It's a whole topic.
Okay.
We'll talk about it in the future.
All right. I'm definitely intrigued now. Well, you're good at teasing these things.
Well, yeah. It's sort of everything goes back to the review itself. It's something that I started doing because of the review, because of the way that I save to-dos inside of the story. Like as I'm writing, I know there's a section that I will need to double check with the developer, or that I will need to edit or continue writing later on. So I wanted to save placeholders in the review, and then I realized, well, I kind of want to make these placeholders actionable somewhere else, And so I figured maybe I should put together a JavaScript action that talks to the reminders database, and it kind of snowballed from there. We'll talk about it.
Okay.
So shortcuts, images, reminders, links. I save links to Trello using the shortcuts extension. It's perfect for saving links from Safari or apps from the App Store, because you can do that.
Right.
I also upload PDF documents to Trello for my accountant. Perfect for that. And finally, the shortcuts extension I use every time I need to publish something on Mac Stories. I use the native WordPress action to send Markdown from my text editor to Mac Stories, and it's perfect for that. I've been using this workflow and now a shortcut for a couple of years now, and it's amazing. So yeah, the shortcuts extension I use. I checked the other day. I think right now, after cleaning up my shortcut library, so I actually made a backup in files of some old stuff, and I cleaned it up a little. But now I have, I think, 200 shortcuts. These are my sort of my regular rotation shortcuts, and I think I have a few hundred backed up in iCloud Drive that I can install as files if I need them again.
Yeah, I use it too, and I do use some of the ones that you do. What I don't use that you're doing is I don't combine images, because I still use the dedicated app for that.
Long screen.
Long screen, yes. Long screen, I use that. And I don't use the publish one because I just use what's in Ulysses, because I think Ulysses WordPress integration is pretty good. This episode of App Stories is brought to you by Simple Contacts. It's fantastic when an app takes a tiresome task and makes it easy. Simple Contacts does precisely this by being the easiest way to renew your contact lens prescription. You can reorder your contacts from anywhere in just minutes. All you need to do is complete their online self-guided vision test in less than 5 minutes from wherever you are right now. No more doctor's offices, no more waiting rooms. It's summer, and there are plenty of occasions you might need contacts on hand. Beach days, vacations, outdoor activities, weddings. So why not use Simple Contacts and stock up for the season? You can order your favorite contacts right from their website or the app. Simple Contacts offers all the lens brands you love, with options for astigmatism, multifocal lenses, colored lenses, and much more. You'll be able to order exactly what you need right from the palm of your hand whenever you want. The vision tests are just $20. Just for comparison, an appointment without insurance could cost you over $200. Simple Contacts can save you money and time. But just to let you know, this is not a replacement for your periodic eye health exam. Simple Contacts will check that your current prescription still helps you see 20/20 and will renew your lenses based on that prescription. They are not writing a completely new prescription or examining your eye health. I've ordered contact lenses online for years because it's really the best way to get a good deal. And when I first heard about Simple Contacts, I wondered, how is it different? There are a few things, but the most amazing is the eye exam, which is super easy to take and saves a ton of money. I was really impressed with the app too. The app had the contacts brand I use, and it was very easy to find them, order, and track my order once it shipped. Not only did it save me money, but it saved me time too, because I didn't have to go and get an eye exam. As a listener of this show, you can save $20 off your first order of contacts. Just go to simplecontacts.com/appstories or enter App Stories at checkout. That's simplecontacts.com/appstories, or simply use the code AppStories for $20 off your first order at Simple Contacts. We thank Simple Contacts for their support of this show. All right, so for my next one, I'm going to mention Linky, which is another one that I use all the time, because what I like about it, it allows you to take an article on the web, and usually it's from Mac Stories and promoting something that I or someone else at Mac Stories has written, and it can grab the title, the URL, and then you can take an image out of the article as well and attach that. It's really easy and quick. It grabs all that stuff, and then you can add your own little commentary to it and then shoot it off through Twitter. So it's something that I use, 4 or 5 times a day. I mean, do you still use Linky?
Yeah. Every time I want to share something from Safari, I use Linky. Yeah.
Next up, I'm going to mention Instapaper, because I've gone back from Pocket to Instapaper recently. With the, Instapaper now has left Pinterest. This app has had quite the quite the genealogy, starting with Marco Arment and then going to BetaWorks and then going to Pinterest, and now is back as an independent part of an independent company that's developing it. And I just wanted, I realize I still like Pocket, but Instapaper is where I started many years ago, and I like the typography. I like the reading experience. I don't need a lot of the social features that Pocket has, even though I kind of like them. All I really do is I collect articles that way and drop them into a folder, depending, some of it will be for things I might link on the club newsletter or just stuff that I want to read myself. And I'll just have 3 or 4 folders that I use to collect those things.
Let me pick here in my list Keep It, which is this database/file manager that we talked about, I think, before I left for vacation, when I told you sort of that I was the apps that I was using for my iOS review this summer.
Right.
And Keep It is so it used to be called Together. It's by Steve Harris. He runs an indie studio called Reinvented Software, I think it's the name. And Keep It is, you can think of it as sort of a mix of the Apple Files app and the Apple Notes app and something like DevonThink, in that it's a similar idea of you throw anything you want to store for reference into Keep It, but the design is more in line with iOS 11, and some of the ideas are more similar to Apple Notes, sort of like how you can structure text notes with titles and headings and sections, and it supports rich text. And also, like DevonThink, it allows you to structure your files in folders and subfolders, but it's got some differences beside, the visual aspect. I think it's more intuitive than DevonThink. It also supports features like tagging that allow you to create saved searches. And these have been a big deal for me when dealing with iOS 12, because they allow the saved searches that let me more easily navigate my library of notes and screenshots based on individual iOS features, such as notifications or screen time or control center, stuff like that. So the extension, I use it to save one or multiple items at once. And what I like is that I can tag those items beforehand from the extension. So it's a share extension. It allows me to pick where I want to save items, and it lets me add tags before saving those items into Keep It. So it's been really convenient as a way to quickly send screenshots and photos from the Photos app or from an iMessage thread, for example, into Keep It. And I mean, I've also been using automation because Keep It supports X callback for, sending data automatically into the app. But with the extension, there's a benefit of you have a visual environment where you can pick a destination, you can enter a tag, you can enter a title, and you also see a preview of the items that you're saving. So it's really well done. And generally speaking, I think Keep It is an iOS app worth keeping an eye on, because the developer knows that it's important these days to have feature parity between macOS and iOS, and Keep It is everywhere. And the developer is working on bringing more Mac features onto the iOS counterpart, and also he's working on iOS 12 stuff. So it's worth checking out. I think there's a free trial, and after that, it's a subscription.
Yeah, I downloaded that recently, which is why I have so many apps on my phone.
Sure.
And I have not tried the free trial yet, but I plan to give it a shot. I like what you said about on the extension that you can specify where to save it, because I think too few apps do that. I mean, I'll give you an example. Things, which is an app I really like, just drops everything into your inbox on iOS, which I don't like, because then I just have this long list of random stuff that I have to go through and organize at some point. Whereas on the Mac, you can do that. You can pick a project, you can pick a tag, you can do a lot of that stuff on the Mac. It just hasn't been brought over to iOS yet on things.
Yeah.
All right. Another app that I use the extension for a lot is GIF Wrapped. I thought I'd mention that because it's really handy. If you see a really funny GIF that you want to hold on to, there's a good extension, and all you have to do is you're in the tweet, and this has gotten more powerful over time. You just tap the extension, and it will, if there's more than one GIF associated with that tweet for some reason, it will give you an option. You pick the one you want, and it goes off and saves it for you. So if you are into tweeting GIFs and want to have a nice little collection of different things, it's a good way to collect them.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't know about that. Let me collect a bunch of utility type extensions here. Add to Deliveries. It's the extension for the Deliveries app by JuneCloud.
Mm-hmm.
It's the package tracker of choice for me, especially because there's a simple option that I love. It's track on Amazon by tracking link, which means I can just log into my Amazon order page, and instead of having to copy a code or tracking by other unreliable methods, I can just use the tracking link option, and I never have to log into my Amazon account again from Deliveries. So it just uses that link as a permanent up-to-date record of where a package is in the world, and it works really well on Amazon.com, on Amazon Italy, Amazon UK, Amazon Japan, which I've been using to buy Nintendo Switch accessories because I'm crazy like that. So the add to Deliveries with the Amazon tracking link option I really like. One Blocker, it's my iOS content blocker of choice, and I use One Blocker to whitelist websites where I don't want to block ads from Safari. So either from Safari or Safari View Controller on iOS, you can bring up the One Blocker extension and you can flip a switch on the whitelist website option. And the whitelist rule will be added to the One Blocker database. You will see a spinner in the middle of the screen, and once it's done, the extension will dismiss itself and you will go back to Safari, and the website will be reloaded with content blockers disabled by default just for that website. And speaking of utilities, I also want to mention here Blink, which is an app you may be familiar with, John. It's made by this guy,
I've heard of it.
guy from Chicago. Blink, of course, it's your app, and it allows me to convert App Store apps. So from the App Store, I can share an app with Blink with the share sheet, and it will give me back a simplified an affiliate link, which unfortunately, affiliate links for apps are going away on October 1st, but still, I'm enjoying, the last few affiliate links that I can generate this summer
Yes.
for my iOS review. It's full of affiliate links, all generated with Blink. Usually from the main Blink app when I just search with Blink in slide over mode, but often also with from the App Store, I just share with Blink and copy the affiliate version of the link.
Okay, let me hit some utilities as well. I mean, one that I use for screenshots fairly often is a Notable. A Notable is a great way to do callouts in a screenshot because you can create a little magnifier loop with a pointer to it, so you can see a small detail in the screenshot, or you can blur out private data that you don't want to put in a screenshot. Just make it look pixelated or blurred. There's a bunch of different options. You can add text, arrows, lines, circles, squares, all sorts of things if you've bought the in-app purchase. And the extension is just a handy way to do that straight from within the share sheet. So I use that quite often. I also use Opener a lot, which is a really handy app that will take any URL that you find anywhere, really, in any app or on the web, and let you choose where it's going to open. So for instance, let's say you are reading an article on Mac Stories and we have a link to a tweet and you use Twitterific, and if you tapped on that link without Opener, it would just open in the official Twitter app. So instead, you can long press on that, tap share, pull up the share sheet, tap on Opener, and then you can decide whether any other Twitter applications you have on your phone, you can open it in that, like Tweetbot, Twitterific, whatever it is. It's a great way to have a little more control over what happens when you tap on a URL on iOS.
All right. I want to cover FeedHawk. So FeedHawk is, I think it's made by the same person who makes now Unread, the RSS
That's
client.
correct.
It's Golden Hill Software. And FeedHawk, it's such a simple concept that I'm surprised that actually nobody else has made, just as well as this one. It's an extension that lets you subscribe via RSS to a blog, to a website that offers a public feed. But what sets it apart is that, like on the Mac, the Mac is full of this type of utilities that can automatically extract the RSS feed from a web page. So if you go to macstories.net, you don't need to know the URL of our feed. You can just copy macstories.net and paste it. And, most RSS readers on the Mac will auto extract what the feed is by looking at the HTML tags in the head
Right.
of the website. And FeedHawk can do the same. So you can just run the extension from Safari, and it will find RSS feeds on the page. And then what really makes it unique is that from the settings of the app, so of course it's also an app, but the app is primarily about settings. You can connect to your favorite RSS service. So iNoreader, Feedbin, Newsblur, Baskcooks Reader, The Old Reader, all of these services are included, and you can connect to your account so that when you run the extension in Safari, when you find an RSS feed, you can just say, add it to my iNoreader account or add it to my Newsblur account, and it will subscribe to the site by talking to the online API for the RSS service that you prefer. That's awesome because it means I don't have to open my RSS client to do this. I could subscribe, using Lear or Fiery Feeds or Newsblur on my iPhone, but then, I would also have to look at unread stuff. And I don't want to do that. I just want a utility to subscribe when I find the website contextually to the website. I just want to say subscribe because it's nice. I like this website. So FeedHawk lets me do this without leaving Safari, and but it's got the same benefit of it talks to the RSS service that I use. So such a very simple idea, but it works really well.
Yeah, it really does. I use it as well, and I don't find myself subscribing to a lot of news sites anymore, but I keep it kind of on the end of the row because every so often you do run into something. You're like, oh, I really ought to subscribe to this and keep tabs on this site. And it is a super simple way to do that. This episode of App Stories is brought to you by FreshBooks. To all the freelancers out there, you know how important it is to make smart decisions about your business. Our friends at FreshBooks can save you up to 192 hours with their cloud accounting software for freelancers that's ridiculously easy to use. Here's how they do it. By simplifying tasks like invoicing, tracking expenses, and getting paid online, FreshBooks has dramatically reduced the time it takes for over 10 million people to deal with their paperwork. I want to tell you about a couple of recent additions to FreshBooks today. The first is the new Notification Center. It's like your personal assistant. When you log into the FreshBooks dashboard, you'll see a bell on the left side that indicates whether you have any notifications. Click on it to find out what's happening since you last logged in. Everything from notifications that an invoice's due date has passed, to client comments on a project, and that an employee has accepted your invitation to a project are all there helping to keep you on top of every aspect of your business and what needs to be done. Next, I want to tell you about Projects. Projects lets you share files and messages with clients, contractors, and employees. It's everyone who's involved in your business in one place. See how quickly things can get done when your conversations live in one place. It's pretty amazing. Projects are super simple to set up, can handle flat rate or hourly projects, and include info like hourly budgets, an end date, and a whole lot more. It's a great way to keep tabs on the status of a project and bring files and comments together in one convenient place. If you're listening to this and not trying FreshBooks yet, now is the time to try it. FreshBooks is offering an unrestricted 30-day free trial for listeners of this show. No credit card is required. All you have to do is go to freshbooks.com/appstories and enter App Stories in the How Did You Hear About Us section. Again, that's freshbooks.com/appstories and enter App Stories in the How Did You Hear About Us section. We'll include a link in the show notes too. Thanks so much to FreshBooks for supporting the show. Another one that I'm using these days is Gladys. And there's a Keep in Gladys action extension, I guess, which is really handy because the times that I use it, it's not that often, but if I'm doing a bunch of research and I know I'm going to end up with, I don't know, a dozen or more links that I'm not going to read in depth now, but I want to kind of save somewhere for a while until I get to the point where I'm going to dive in and read a little more, I'll just throw them into Gladys because with Gladys, I might be on my phone looking up these articles, but I want to read them on my iPad. Or Gladys is on the Mac too. I can open it up on my Mac, and I have those links and those URLs all in one place. And when I'm done, I can just kind of clean them out of there and delete them. But it's a nice temporary holding place, a shelf, if you will, for things like URLs and images and that sort of thing.
I want to have a final pick here. And let me pick working copy. So the save in working copy share extension. I've been using this extension literally dozens of times every day this summer because it lets me save a new revision of my iOS review into my GitHub repo where I store the review as a markdown file. And what I like about the working copy extension, which of course throughout the year I usually invoke when I need to save stuff for the club or a new draft for a Mac Stories article. But this summer I've appreciated the extension particularly because I set up this whole sort of a workflow. It's not a workflow, I suppose. It's an action in drafts.
It's a little W workflow, right?
It's a lowercase workflow in drafts where I can back up the review in 3 separate places. And the final step is calling the share sheet where I can tap on the saving working copy extension so that I can pick the compiled draft of the review and overwrite the previous revision in the repo, add a comment to the commit, which in GitHub terms would be a new revision of the file. So I can say this version includes edits to the section about FaceTime group video, RIP. So I really appreciate how easy it is to deal with commits and comments using working copy. It abstracts much of the complexity that is usually involved with Git and terminal and using the shell to work with Git.
Right.
And I appreciate the UI of the extension because it's simple and it tells you you're overwriting something that already exists in your repo. So do you really want to do this? Yes. And then you can go. You can also push your, which means you can also upload your changes from the extension itself. So that's pretty impressive. Working Copy is one of the apps that I use the most on my iPad on a daily basis, and the extension is just as good as the main app. So that's my final pick for today.
Well, that is a great pick. I mean, I use that as well, and it comes in. I mean, I don't know. I can't even tell you how many times a week I use Working Copy, both the extension and the app, because it's really one of those apps that's really at the heart of what we do every week on Mac Stories. Well, Federico, I think that's probably a good place to stop. It's really good to have you back.
Yeah, it's good to be here again, and and I miss doing the show. So while I'm still at the beach, I will be doing podcasts now because my equipment exploded, but now it's back. New equipment is back. I mean, the old one is gone, but it's here now. So I have new gear, and I'm ready. I'm back into the action, John.
Oh, very good, very good. I used the same thing that you had that blew up on you, so I'm a little nervous.
Good luck.
I'm a little nervous that I'll end up like you at some point, but I do have a backup plan, so I think I'll be okay. I'll be okay. All right. Well, that's it for this week, folks. Thanks again to our 2 sponsors this week, FreshBooks and Simple Contacts, for making this episode possible. And as usual, you can find me and Federico writing over at macstories.net and for Club Mac Stories. Federico is on Twitter as @Viticci, that's VITICCI, and I'm at John Voorhees, JOHNVOORHEES. Talk to you next week, Federico.
Ciao, John.